The scream ripped through the thick coastal fog like a knife, sharp, sudden, and utterly terrified. Finn O'Sullivan, hunched over the stubborn outboard motor of his fishing skiff, jerked upright, heart hammering against his ribs. The sound came from the base of the cliffs, near the treacherous rocks known as the Widow's Teeth. In this blinding, soupy gray, someone was in mortal danger. He abandoned the motor, grabbed his heavy-duty flashlight, and plunged toward the cliff path, the beam cutting a feeble swath through the murk. The path was slick with condensation and loose shale. Another cry, choked and desperate this time, spurred him faster, fear lending wings to his feet. He skidded the last few yards onto the narrow, rock-strewn beach. There, a figure, small and dark against the wet stones, struggling violently, not against the waves, but against thick, slimy ropes of kelp that had tangled around her legs like malevolent serpents, pinning her as the icy tide relentlessly advanced. Each surge dragged her deeper. Her wide, panic-stricken eyes met Finn's beam. "Hold on!" Finn bellowed over the roar of the surf. He scrambled down the rocks, ignoring the bite of barnacles on his hands. The water was shockingly cold as he waded in, the waves crashing against his thighs. He fought the pull of the undertow, reaching her just as another wave submerged her head. Grabbing her shoulders, he hauled her up, sputtering. "The kelp! I can't!" she gasped, her voice raw with terror and cold. Finn drew the sturdy knife he always carried. "Keep your head up," he ordered, his voice tight with urgency. He hacked at the thick, rubbery strands, the salt spray stinging his eyes. The tide swirled higher, reaching their waists. Finally, with the last vicious slice, the kelp gave way. Finn hooked an arm around her waist and half dragged, half carried her back onto the higher, safer stones. They collapsed together, gasping, shivering violently on the cold, wet rock. He shone the light on her face. She was younger than he thought, maybe mid-20s, with pale skin made ghostly by the cold and fear, and dark hair plastered to her cheeks and neck. Her eyes, a startling shade of sea green, even in the dim light, were huge. "Are you hurt?" Finn rasped, his own breath coming in ragged bursts. She shook her head, teeth chattering too hard to speak properly. "Just cold and stupid, so stupid. I was sketching, the fog came in so fast." Finn shrugged off his thick, oiled wool sweater, damp on the outside but still warm within. "Here, put this on." He helped her pull it over her soaked clothes. It engulfed her small frame. "I'm Finn O'Sullivan. My cottage is just up the path. Can you walk?" She nodded shakily. Ilara Vance." With Finn supporting her elbow, they slowly navigated the treacherous path back up the cliff. He led her into the small, cluttered warmth of his cottage, a fisherman's haven smelling of salt, wood smoke, and strong tea. He stoked the fire, wrapped her in a rough wool blanket, and pressed a steaming mug of sweet tea into her trembling hands. As the heat seeped back into her bones and the color returned to her cheeks, Ilara told her story. She was an artist visiting the remote coastal village for a month, captivated by its wild beauty and the imposing lighthouse further down the coast. She'd lost track of time sketching the rock formations as the fog, silent and swift, had rolled in, cutting off her retreat. Her panic had led her onto the slippery rocks where the kelp had trapped her as the icy tide relentlessly advanced. Finn, usually a man of few words, found himself talking too, about the sea's moods, the village's rhythms, the loneliness and beauty of his life as a fisherman and part-time mechanic. He learned Ilara saw the world in shades and textures he'd never noticed, finding magic in the play of light on water or the gnarled shape of driftwood. She called his cottage authentically atmospheric instead of messy, which made him chuckle. Over the next week, their paths crossed constantly. Ilara brought him a sketch she'd done of his boat, the stubborn mule, capturing its rugged character perfectly. He took her out on a calm day, showing her his favorite fishing spots and the seals basking on distant rocks. He showed her the hidden cove only locals knew about, its sand like powdered gold under the suddenly clear sky. They talked for hours by his fire, the awkwardness melting away, replaced by a comfortable warmth that had nothing to do with the flames. He loved her quick laugh and the intense focus in her eyes when she drew. She admired his quiet strength, his deep connection to the sea, and the surprising gentleness in his weathered hands. Yet a shadow lingered. Ilara's month was almost up. The vibrant life she led in the city, galleries, cafes, constant noise, felt like a different universe from Finn's quiet existence. He couldn't imagine leaving the sea. She couldn't imagine staying forever in a place with one pub and unpredictable weather. The unspoken deadline loomed, turning their easy camaraderie bittersweet. The night before she was due to leave, they stood on the cliff path, the lighthouse beam sweeping rhythmically across the dark water. The air crackled with unspoken words. "I have to go back tomorrow, Finn," Ilara whispered, her voice thick. "I know. This place, it's not for everyone. It's slow, isolated." He couldn't bring himself to ask her to stay, fearing the answer, fearing it would be an impossible request. Ilara turned to him, the lighthouse beam catching the tears on her cheeks. "Slow isn't bad, Finn. Isolated isn't lonely when you're not alone." She took a shaky breath. "My life before, it was full, but it never felt as real as this past week. As real as you." Finn's heart pounded like it had that first day on the beach. He cupped her face, rough thumb brushing away a tear. "Ilara Vance, you crashed into my life like a rogue wave, turned everything upside down." He searched her sea-green eyes. "Stay for a little while longer. See if the magic fades in the daylight. See if this could be real for more than just a moment snatched from the fog." A slow, radiant smile spread across Ilara's face, brighter than the lighthouse beam. "The magic started in the fog, Finn. I think it thrives there. And I think I'd like to see what it looks like in the sunshine, too." She reached up, pulling his head down towards hers. Their first kiss tasted of salt and promise. There on the windswept cliff, under the watchful eye of the lighthouse and the vast, murmuring sea. It wasn't an ending, but a fragile, hopeful beginning. A love story rescued from the tide, written not just in the grand gestures, but in the quiet understanding of two souls who'd found their safe harbor in the most unexpected storm.